Constructing your works cited page can often seem like a very daunting task, usually because there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of little things to try to remember. But I think if you keep a few basic conventions in mind, you'll find that it is fairly easy to keep things together. So let's look first at the basic conventions of the works cited page, and then we'll look at some examples. First of all, the works cited is always the last page of your paper. It's a separate page of the document, and so it's paginated accordingly. So if, for instance, your essay is 7.5 pages long, that half page is page 8, and your works cited page will be page 9. Little word processing tip: if you are at the end of your paper and you hold the control key down, press enter, it will force that page break so that you can create your works cited page. The words works cited will appear at the top of your paper, centered just like you would your title. The page is always double spaced completely, with no extra spaces between the source entries. Each thing that you put in for each source that you use should have an entry. Source entries always appear in alphabetical order, based on the author's last name, primarily. If the author's information is missing, you usually go for the title of the work that you're referring to as an example. You need to make sure that all appropriate information about the source is included in your entry. Each source has its own particular conventions. If you're looking at chapter 10 of The Active Writer, you'll find some examples, and each example is based on the type of an entry that it is, such as a book or an article from a newspaper or an article from a website. As always, book, magazine, journal titles are italicized. Websites are also italicized. Article titles go in quotation marks. Usually a source entry will begin with the last name of the author of the work, with a comma, then the first name, then the title of the work. Then there's data that's referred to. If it's, say, a newspaper or magazine, there should be information about, say, the title of the magazine or the title of the newspaper. There's going to be some publication data that's appropriate for each source. For example, newspapers might have section and page numbers, and other sources may have different kinds of information. Almost every source is going to have date information that is required. For instance, for a book, you are going to put the date of publication, usually the last date printed on their publication page. There's a page range for most sources except for books and web pages, and usually the format of the source. In most cases, that's going to be the print or web. To start with some examples of how you would construct your works cited page, first of all, I might encourage you to construct some things on your works cited page before you even begin to write. As you do your research, it will help you to keep things straight if you don't have to do this at the last moment. But we're going to start with the example from the book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. And what you'll want to do is to look at the copyright page for a book. This is an example for a book. And what we see here is that we have some of the information about the book that we're going to need on that works cited page. Now, I've already started one over here with one of the sources I'm going to show you. But we have the author's name will always go first, and that is Rebecca Skloot. And a period in the name of the book, which goes in italics. All titles of books go in italics. After that, we need the city of publication, so we're going to go back over here to the copyright page, and usually that information is, I went a little too far. It's usually on the copyright or the title pages. Here we have it published. Our printing is, says United States, but that's not what we want, because we want a city of publication, and we see that it says Crown Publishers in New York. Now, if you have more than one city listed in a book that you're using, you always choose the first city that has been listed. So let's go back. We're going to type that in, New York the city, not New York the state. The next thing we should have is the name of our publisher, and we just saw that. It was Crown Publishing, after the colon, and then a comma, and the year of publication. That's usually right on that copyright page. Again, sometimes you'll find a book with more than one copyright date that has been given, but here it's pretty simple. We just have the one. It's 2010. Then we type a period, and since this is a print publication, we have the word print. Okay. Now notice that I have things a little out of order here. Our next example is an article, and I'm going to show you that article real quickly. It's a book review. Here's our title of the article, our author right here, Lisa Marginelli, and the date it was published, February 5th, 2010, and it was published in the New York Times. Just as a matter of keeping things pretty simple, I went ahead and typed up that source entry. Start with the name of the author, then the title of the article. Title of the article always goes in quote marks. Then the title of the magazine or journal, which is italicized. Here that's the New York Times. The next thing is the original date of publication. Here it's the 5th of February 2010. We always put it in what's called military fashion, which gives us the date, the month, and then the year. Then we have a comma, and then what is asked for is the URL or web address. Oftentimes it's easier just to copy and paste that in. If you do, be sure that you remove the hyperlink. After the web address, we have a period, and then the word accessed, and then another date. This date is October 3rd, 2016, which is today. Always put the date that you access the material in there. Our next source that we're going to put in here is coming from an online database, which you're going to learn in another lesson about. But we have an article by someone named Carla Lee, and all the information has been given to us. Carla Lee is the author. The name of the journal is Library Journal. This is the publication data. There's the date of publication, volume, issue number, page numbers, things like that. Okay. And there are a number of things that can be put in there, but I'm going to show you a little trick for our databases that you'll want to use when you use the online database source. We have a cite feature where you can click and find the type of site that you have, type of source. Our source happens to be MLA, and you can actually copy and paste that in to our Works Cited page. And of course I don't have the proper font, so I'm going to fix that real quick. Where we have now our author, then the title of the article, in quote marks. And normally, because this is a book title, it might also should be italicized as well. Title of the journal, Library Journal. This is the volume and issue number and the year of publication. These are the original page numbers. Right here in italics, you also have the name of the database. This is very, very important. Okay. In this case, we used Academic Search Complete, which is a database I like to use a lot for this sort of research. The word web, and then the date, again, that we access that material. Now we do, all source entries should end with a period. We do have a few things to clean up. For example, we have hanging indents, which you may not know how to do. This is already done for us. But this should be in alphabetical order. So I'm going to cut and paste where these should be. And there you go. Now, I'm going to add one more source just so I can show it to you. I'm going to type it directly from the textbook so that you can kind of see it without the hanging indent. So I can show you how to create a hanging indent. This is a work from an anthology. This comes directly from your textbook. Okay, just real briefly, we have our author's name. We have the name of the title of the, in this case, a short story or article, in quote marks, title of the book in italics. This is a work that's a work in an anthology, something that we might find in a book that's edited by someone, but each part is something that has been written by a separate person. So then we have the editors, those are the people who put the book together. Then we have the city of publication. We only put the state in abbreviated form when the city is something that the reader would not be familiar with. We have a shortened form of the publisher, Prentice Hall. We just shorten it to Prentice, comma, 1998. Then we have a page range because this story begins on page 316, goes to page 320, then the word print. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, which is why I did this in the first place, is to demonstrate how to create a hanging indent. You can just select the material that needs the indent. Up here where it says paragraph, you choose this little line there. And where it says special, just change this from none to hanging and click OK. And then we're going to save it. And we're all done.